true, maybe it's worth checking it out. And what happens? She shows up, and there's a party. As soon as she takes a step of faith, suddenly there's confirmation that she's not the only one that has seen God. I've been teaching Alana her ABCs, and one day, the other day, she just looked up and she said, "There's a B," or I actually don't remember what it was. There's a B. And he said, "Oh, Papa, there's a B." And the thing about learning ABCs is not so much that you are suddenly people start writing things up when you're learning them. Suddenly, it's not like people start putting up big B signs everywhere. It's more that suddenly you're aware of what is already happening around you, right? And so it's the same thing with me. When I ventured out and I decided I'm going to look to see whether God really is here, I suddenly found that God was all around. And so with me, and so with Mary, when Mary stepped out in belief, she finds that not only has an angel come to visit her, but that God's promises are being fulfilled all around her. And then there's a jumping baby that is a signal for her that this is coming true. We celebrate with others in Christmas because somehow, like Elizabeth, when she heard Mary's greeting, there's something of God in you that calls out to the something of God in me and reminds all of us that we're not dreaming. That if no one else understands, when I greet you and meet with you, you know what it is like to have God give birth to something in you. And so you can remind me that God is giving birth to something in me. So what was the particular blessing of Mary? Just this, I think. Zachariah got his song, Mary got his song. But it's when Mary got her song. Mary got her song before the promises were fulfilled. Mary got her song while it was still dark. While there was still unfulfillment. And so when we hear, and that might not seem like that much to you, it's just timing. Zachariah got his song, Mary got her song. But I think it matters when. Because Mary got a blessing of celebration even while she was waiting. And so we, who are waiting, have a model for how to celebrate even when our promises are not fully fulfilled. I think the early church had it right. You know why they dated Christmas the way it is? Because it was closest to the winter solstice. We don't know that Jesus was born on December 25th, but what we do know is that the early Christians felt like it makes sense for us to make Jesus' birth on near the darkest day of the night. Because for them, the birth of Christ meant that in the darkness, meant that everything else after that, it gets brighter. We celebrate in darkness precisely because this is when we need to be reminded that the light is coming. We celebrate in darkness because we remember how God was good then, so we can remember how God will be good to us now in our darkness. The question is still there. How can we celebrate when those around us mourn? And I think the answer is in Mary's song. Mary sings, "He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. We sing in Christmas. We celebrate even while those around us mourn. Because if the song of Christmas is for anyone, it's for them first, before it's for us to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate light coming into darkness. First of all, for the people who are sitting in darkness. We celebrate a God who comes, especially for those who are waiting for God to come. Mary teaches us that the blessing of those who believe in God's promises is that we get to sing even while we're waiting for our promises to be fulfilled. We can celebrate with one another and recognize and call out that God is at work in you because He is at work in me. We can celebrate and sing in the meantime because in our belief, in our trust, and in our hope, unlike Zechariah who was silent, we get to keep our voice. And what will we do with it? There's one man who kept his voice in contemporary times. And he sang about a promise even before it was fulfilled. And he spoke of a dream. And whenever he spoke, there were times when you could swear that he was singing. He sang about freedom before true freedom was realized. He spoke about truth before truth had been fulfilled. He spoke in the darkness while he was still waiting to see the light because he was blessed with belief. And so he was blessed with a voice to sing and to celebrate in the meantime. There was a man who sang, "We shall overcome," while they were far from overcoming. There was a man who sang, "Free at last," while true freedom was still far from being obtained. Who sang, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord," even while it would be the last words he spoke in public. We sing, and we're going to sing, because we stand in a long tradition of singers who sing not only when promises have been fulfilled, but also when promises are just starting to come true. And when we believe, we follow in the footsteps of Mary, who made her way with haste on a difficult journey to look for God's promises, even while the angel's words were hanging in the air. And when we sing, we follow Elizabeth, whose whole body and the unborn child in her rejoiced because she recognized that she was not the only one in whom God was fulfilling His promises. And when we sing with Mary, who sang not in spite of the sorrows that still faced her people, but because the song she sang included all her people, was for her people, and therefore the whole world. And we sing because if the Christmas songs are for anyone, it is for the lowly and the hungry among us, whom God has lifted up and filled with good things. We sing because when we step out in faith, to believe that God is faithful to His promises, we find that His promises are being fulfilled all around us.